The latest Fox News poll shows that there is one thing that Americans care most about when it comes to this election, and it might surprise you a bit. Far and away, the economy continues to be the number one issue, despite everything that's going on with ISIS and Ebola and all of that. 43% say when they walk into that voting booth, that is going to be the number one issue on their mind. It is way ahead of immigration, healthcare, foreign policy, as you can see. Brett Baier anchors special report, and he will be leading our election coverage. And we welcome him here this morning, as we always do. Good morning, Brett. Good to see you.
Hey, Martha. Good morning.
So is it surprising that the economy remains number one with voters as they walk in, given that it hasn't really been in the headlines lately?
No, but you know, every election really comes down to how people feel about their personal situation, how people feel around the kitchen table about looking forward in their own future. And despite all the focus that we spend on Ebola and foreign policy, you can see foreign policy is 3 times less on the latest Fox News poll of importance. I think it all comes back to, as Bill Clinton said, it's the economy stupid. It really factors in midterm elections, especially.
It's interesting because it seems to be an area that the president feels frustrated about. Because when he's out on the campaign trail, he says, look, nobody's telling this story, but, you know, the economy is doing so much better. Things have improved, and he seems to feel that that's the number one thing in his legacy. And yet the numbers that we see show that only 1 in 5 people out there give the economy a good measure.
Yeah, the White House ticks off, and the president has ticked off a number of stats, and put in the right package can sound very impressive. But the bottom line is that people are not feeling it across the country. And there is a disconnect with those positive stats, including the GDP number today, the fact that the Federal Reserve stopped its quantitative easing. That suggests that there's confidence a little bit in the strength of the U.S. economy going forward. Still, it's about feeling it at home. And while the unemployment rate has dropped significantly, as you know, labor participation is down to its lowest level in 36 years. So that's significant.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a narrative that the president would very much like people to be embracing, and yet it seems that they are not. And I think it goes back to that central issue that you just touched on, which is consumer confidence and people's feeling. And feeling is very significant when it comes to the economy, because it dictates things such as, you know, whether or not you're going to buy a new house or a new dishwasher or a new car. And you've got 25%, only 25% believing in their heart of hearts that the economy is indeed improving. So as much as the president might want it to be a good story, that message has not gotten across.
Well, that's right. And, you know, he is not, as we've talked about, campaigning in any of these really Senate races, the competitive ones, the ones especially in red states, states that Mitt Romney won in 2012. He is doing some campaigning and especially some radio interviews in African-American communities, trying to stir up the African-American base. But if you look at the stats in African-American communities, it's pretty remarkable when you talk about the economy. While the unemployment rate has gone from 12.7 to 11%, the labor participation rate has dropped to 61% from 63. There are 1.85 million more people not in the labor force, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in the African-American community. You have the median household income roughly the same from when the president took office. The poverty rate has gone up 3 percentage points in the African-American community since President Obama took over in 2009. And home ownership has dropped from 47% to 43%. This is just African-American community stats, according to the BLS and Census. Those are not good stats. And yet, he is obviously well received in that community, but maybe not as forceful coming out to support the president, even as he makes it personal.
Yeah, you mentioned these appearances on radio programs and Steve Harvey, and we got to go, but I just want to leave people with this thought. He made a very personal appeal when he talked to Steve Harvey. He said, we're going to have one last push so the president and the first lady have the opportunities to really use these last 2 years on our behalf, speaking to a largely African-American audience on that radio show. So, you know, very sort of softer, more personal appeal, like, please hang in there with me over these next 2 years, and hang in with Michelle, who's very popular. It's an interesting sort of turn in his narrative, Brett.
We'll see, because some of those races for Democrats, it's important that that community come out. North Carolina, Georgia could make the difference.
We'll see who turns out and for whom. Brett, thank you very much. See you tonight.